Good morning on this radiant Tuesday. A local gem is drawing national applause. The Ridgewood Reservoir, which began operations on the Brooklyn-Queens border in 1858, was added this month to the National Register of Historic Places. Without this supply of water, Brooklyn would not have been able to grow into the third largest city in the country in the 1860s and, by the end of the 19th century, an industrial powerhouse, said Matt Molina, the founder of NYCH2O, a nonprofit that provides educational programs on city water and ecology. And now it's a treasure for the community. We can attest. When we visited the Reservoir, a 50-acre oasis in Highland Park that was decommissioned by the 1980s, we discovered what looked like a fall scene from the English countryside, a grey-blue pond, flat and still as glass, surrounded by a golden meadow and the remnants of a centuries-old iron gate. The reservoir, with 3 basins that held 300 million gallons of water, transformed what was then the city of Brooklyn from a farming area into an industrial metropolis. The nexus of Brooklyn's water system, as Mr. Molina called it, brought in water from remote reservoirs across Long Island and, eventually, from the Catskills. In the days before electricity and plumbing were widely available, the reservoir changed everything for New Yorkers. Steam engines, the main power source at the time, used up to 10,000 gallons of water a day, Mr. Molina said, and as the flush toilet gained popularity around the time the reservoir was created, demand for water intensified. Though it no longer supplies water to the city, the reservoir remains a lovely stop along the Atlantic Flyway, a place to see more than 150 species of birds, including the endangered short-eared owl, and plants, including the endangered late-flowering boneset. On Thursday, the State Department of Environmental Conservation designated the Ridgewood Reservoir a wetland, a status that will guarantee protection for those threatened species. Here's what else is happening. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. They're clear and they're blue, and the sunshine will warm things up with a high near 55. A splendid day to stroll about the wetlands as New York considers congestion pricing. The systems used in London, Singapore, and Stockholm could provide a valuable road map. New York Times closing arguments in the corruption trial of Joseph Percoco, a former top aide to Gov. Andrew M. Cuomo, are to begin this week. New York Times Bloomberg LP may have been swindled out of $1 million as part of a fraudulent scheme in the big money interior construction industry. New York Times A federal appeals court ruled that federal civil rights law bars employers from discriminating against their workers based on sexual orientation. New York Times A federal judge tossed out a lawsuit that sought to make marijuana legal under federal law. New York Times tickets for the David Bowie exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum will cost as much as $2,500. Time out. New York. The city is demanding more than $176,000 from a Brooklyn developer accused of committing arboricide, the killing of a tree. CBS New York. With 7,500 technology firms employing 120,000 workers, New York is the industry's official second city. Cranes New York. The health department announced a joint program with Walgreens to offer 1,000 vouchers for flu shots in neighborhoods with high rates of uninsured residents. New York Post police are under fire after statistics revealed that 86% of marijuana arrests in the city were of Black or Latino people. New York Daily News. Today's Metropolitan Diary, caught in the act. For a global look at what's happening, see your morning briefing. Corporations and the Constitution, a talk by the law professor Adam Winkler and the legal journalist Dahlia Lithwick, at the New York University School of Law in Greenwich Village. 6 p.m. Free Kids Night on Broadway, when children 18 and under can attend participating Broadway shows free when accompanied by an adult paying full price. Times and prices vary. The musician Amina Claudine Myers plays a solo piano performance of blues, gospel, and jazz at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. 7 p.m. $10 Star Wars meets 50 Shades of Grey during an interactive comedy show at Littlefield in Gowanus, Brooklyn. 8 p.m. $10 The National Geographic photographer Anand Verma hosts Beauty and the Bazaar, part of the National Geographic Live series, at the Town Hall in Midtown. 8 p.m. Tickets start at $37. Devils at Penguins, 7 p.m. Message Plus. Nets at Cavaliers, 7 p.m. Yes. Alternate side parking remains in effect until Thursday. For more events, see the New York Times' Arts and Entertainment Guide. The city's active reservoirs, like Jerome Park Reservoir in the Bronx and Silver Lake Reservoir on Staten Island, are easy to spot. But there are quite a few city spaces that you may be surprised to learn once functioned as reservoirs. Beginning in the 1840s, what is now the Great Lawn in Central Park was a receiving reservoir for clean water from the Croton Reservoir in Westchester. It was replaced by the Central Park Reservoir, which was decommissioned in the 1990s. In the 1880s, the Williamsbridge Oval was transformed into a reservoir to carry water from the Bronx and Byram rivers to parts of the Bronx from the Kensico Reservoir in Valhalla. It was decommissioned some 30 years later. In the 1890s, what we now know as the New York Public Library on 42nd Street was a distributing reservoir called the Murray Hill Reservoir. Bryant Park was then called Reservoir Square. And Basley Pond in Jamaica, Queens, was part of Brooklyn Waterworks, a group of reservoirs and wells that supplied water to the Ridgewood Reservoir. In fact, about 80% of the ponds and lakes in our city parks were once used as reservoirs or impoundments. New York Today is a morning roundup that is published weekdays at 6 a.m. If you don't get it in your inbox already, you can sign up to receive it by email here. For updates throughout the day, like us on Facebook. What would you like to see here to start your day? Post a comment, email us at newyorktoday@newyorktimes.com, or reach us via Twitter using hashtag NYToday. Follow the New York Today columnists, Alexandra Levine and Jonathan Wolfe, on Twitter. You can find the latest New York Today at newyorktoday.com.